So before we go into some problems on financial accounting and maintenance of capital accounts, as I promised, I have another costume for you. Let's just take a little break from all that, right? You've been dealing with numbers, ideas of financial accounting. As I said, accounting is more than just financial accounting. Accounting is broader than that. The definition of accounting is the identification, recording, and communication of information that is relevant, reliable, and comparable in making better decisions. Now notice in that definition of accounting, there's nothing in there that relates to a company's finances or money. That's just what we think of when we think of accounting. Specifically, we think of financial accounting. Take sports. So let's say you are a big baseball fan, right? Batting average of hitters. Or maybe you like football, right? Maybe you're a big football fan, American football fan, right? Maybe you got a quarterback efficiency rating. Or finally, maybe you got basketball, right? Maybe you got a three-point shooting percentage, or you got free throw percentage, right? All those things are all important statistics that people keep track of in the respective sports. The idea there, let's just take an example of, let's take free throws, right? I just had the basketball free throws. I'm a big basketball fan. Let's say that you are comparing your team's free throw shooting abilities across a season. Well, maybe at the beginning of the season, you look at each game and you look at respective players. And maybe one player has an 80% free throw percentage, but you want to increase that. You want to get better over time. So the idea there is you're comparing, and you need to make sure you're comparing apples to apples, not apples to oranges. So that's why in accounting, we look at different periods of time. So if you're comparing from game to game or season to season, you make sure you're doing so and that your apples equal apples and not apples to oranges. Now, again, think about it, right? If you're looking at free throw percentage shooting from one game to another, one season to another, and you're trying to make better decisions on, hey, maybe that player needs to increase their free throw percentage. Maybe at the beginning of the season, they're not doing well, but they need to work on that. And then as they get later in the season, they can possibly get better and help win games. That's the idea, right? Because let's go back to our definition of accounting. Accounting is the identification, right? We're identifying free throw shooting. We know that's an important element of basketball. I'm sure you've seen lots of basketball games that have clinched on teams either correctly sinking those free throws or missing them and then losing, right? So identification. Recording, so we record the actual free throws made or attempted, right, or miss. We communicate that. That's a very important thing about accounting. We have specific ways that we communicate the information, right? In the record-keeping process, we normally debit and credit, but then when we actually communicate that information to people outside of the company, for example, if you're doing a 10K for shareholders or those outside of the company, I should say shareholders are, they are technically owners of the company, but in a way for them to understand. And those outside the company, in the 10K financial statements, you've got a balance sheet, income statement, statement of cash flow, statement of retained earnings, statement of owner's equity. You've got all these different ways that information is communicated. We need to make sure it's kept consistent. If you don't report that the same way, it provides ways of miscommunication. So it's very important that we identify, right, something that's important, right, our free throw percentages. We then record. So we're going to record. We need to make sure we record consistently. We're going to communicate that information, right, to those people outside of the team managers or coach. And that way we need to make sure it's also consistent. So that's the first three parts of the definition, right? So again, we identify, record, and communicate information that is relevant, reliable, and comparable. So it needs to be relevant information. Again, going back to the idea of a free throw, well, free throw percentages, very important, right? Free throw percentage, very important. So relevant, reliable. Can it be relied on? We need to make sure that it's actually the record keeping and the communication of information is actually accurate, right? So again, identification, recording, and communicating information that's relevant, reliable, and comparable. Comparable. Can we compare from one game to another, one season to another, one team from another, one player from another? You need to be able to compare because that makes better decisions. So accounting isn't just financial. That's just what we think of money. And in a partnership tax class where you have capital accounts, of course we have dollar amounts and whatnot. So of course we're talking about financial accounting, but it's even broader picture than that, right? So the concepts that you just learned about with respect to financial accounting, some general ideas, that also, those concepts can apply even broader just accounting. The big accounting firms, they also audit the Emmys, the Grammys, right? You might recall a few years ago, or at least depending on when you watch the video, there was that issue where the Best Picture, they announced it on stage, and then a few minutes after they announced it, they came back and they said, no, we got that wrong. That was all because of the issue of an accounting firm in terms of accounting, and they gave the wrong envelope, okay? So it's not just financial. Now, again, we're dealing partnership tax with numbers, with capital accounts, so for us, it really is financial, but it's just broader than that. It's broader than that, okay? So you can also think of it, whenever you're dealing with accounting, think back to sports, right? Accounting is just, again, identification, recording, communicating information that's relevant, reliable, and comparable. That's all it is. That's all you're doing, right? We have special rules for financial, but that's all you're doing, really, if you think about it broadly. All right, so now let's go into some examples of using the rules you learn with respect to financial accounting and applying them in a situation of maintaining capital accounts and other elements of financial accounting.